The first mistake was landing. The second was touching the monolith. I should have stopped them. Should have told Captain Arden that some things weren't meant to be disturbed. But we were explorers, scientists and dreamers. Our mission was to uncover the unknown. We should have known the unknown would stare back. The Kestrel broke through the dense atmosphere of LV 927, its hull groaning against the unexpected turbulence. We had been sent here by the Terran Expeditionary Corps, tasked with surveying this uncharted world for habitability. The planet was beautiful, vast, rolling deserts, jagged mountains stretching like obsidian knives toward the sky, and massive storm systems that danced across the horizon. No signs of civilization. No signs of life. At least, that's what we thought. "Engines holding steady," said Holt, our pilot, guiding us toward a clearing near a set of towering black spires. The valley stretched endlessly, bathed in the eerie blue glow of LV 927's distant sun. My breath caught as I gazed at the alien landscape from the viewport. "We're really the first ones here," I murmured. "Let's make history then," Captain Arden said, strapping on her gear. The Kestrel touched down with a hiss, landing struts sinking into soft dust. As the engines powered down, silence settled, a deep, crushing quiet that made my skin crawl. And then we saw it. The monolith. It stood 100 feet tall, a sheer black structure in the middle of the valley. There were no markings, no seams, just a perfect, impossible slab of something darker than the void itself. Even under the blinding sun, it seemed to swallow light. Holt whistled. That wasn't in the satellite scans. Dr. Reyes, our exoarchaeologist, was already moving toward it, scanner in hand. "This is incredible. It's not natural. Someone put this here." Arden followed. "Then we need to know who." I hesitated. "Captain, something about this feels wrong." She shot me a look. "You afraid of a rock, Carter?" My gut screamed at me to stop them. But I said nothing. And that was mistake number 2. The moment Rhea's hand met the monolith's surface, the planet shuddered. A deep, resonating pulse rippled through the air, so powerful that the ground beneath us cracked. Static exploded through our comms. Our ship's alarms flared. Then the sun flickered. Like something massive had just passed between us and the light. And in that moment, I felt it. Something woke up. Reyes staggered back, gasping. "Did you feel that?" Arden turned to me. "Report?" I checked my wrist scanner. Massive energy spike. Off the charts. "I don't." A low sound rolled through the valley. Not wind. Not thunder. Something breathing. I swallowed hard. "We need to go. Now." We ran for the Kestrel. The valley around us was different now, the shadows stretching unnaturally, twisting like something alive. The monolith, once silent, now hummed. The ship's lights flickered. Holt cursed as he sprinted ahead, keying into his comms. "Kestrel, prep emergency launch." Then he stopped. And we saw it. The thing. It rose from the shadows, towering, inhuman. A shape we couldn't comprehend, shifting angles, too many limbs, too many eyes. Its form was blackness incarnate, a living void that twisted in and out of reality. Holt tried to scream. It took him. 1 second, he was there. The next, gone. Like he had never existed. Reyes sobbed. Arden grabbed my arm. "Move." We ran. Behind us, the shadows chased. We barely made it inside. The airlock sealed, alarms blaring as we scrambled toward the cockpit. Arden slammed into the pilot's seat, fingers dancing over the controls. Engines online. The ship lurched. Something was holding us down. The monitors glitched. The lights failed. And then, a voice. A whisper. Inside my head. "You should not have come." I turned to the viewport. The monolith was closer. It had moved. And the darkness outside was waiting. Arden slammed the thrusters, but the Kestrel wouldn't move. The engines roared, the stabilizers whined, yet something unseen held us in place. I gripped the console, my breath coming in sharp gasps. Outside the viewport, the valley was changing, the jagged peaks warping, the ground twisting as if the planet itself was being rewritten. The monolith loomed closer, though it hadn't moved. It was pulling us in. Reyes clutched her temples, eyes wide. "Do you hear that?" I did. A voice. No voices. Whispering, overlapping, crawling into my skull like insects burrowing through flesh. I squeezed my eyes shut, but it didn't help. The words weren't in my ears. They were inside me. "You woke us. You are ours." The ship shuddered. Something slammed against the hull. Arden cursed. "Carter, get the damn weapons online." I pushed past the static flooding the console, fingers moving on instinct. Targeting scanners flickered, flashing errors. Then, contact. Something was outside. Not just one thing. Dozens. Figures, shifting in and out of existence, barely more than distortions of space. They surrounded the kestrel, their forms writhing like smoke and ink. And at the center of them all, the first one. The thing that took hold. It watched us without eyes, a presence that pressed against my skull like it was inside my head. The weapons locked. I fired. The ship's pulse cannons screamed, unleashing streaks of burning plasma. The valley lit up in a blinding flare, then darkened. The energy never hit. It was consumed. Swallowed into the shadows like it had never existed. Arden stared at the monitors. "That's impossible!" Reyes screamed. I turned, she was floating. No. She was being pulled. Something invisible dragged her toward the rear of the ship, her limbs thrashing, fingers clawing at nothing. Her mouth stretched in a silent scream, terror contorting her face. I lunged. Caught her wrist. The whispering turned to screeching. Dark tendrils of nothingness coiled around her, pulling harder. Her skin grew pale. No, not pale, thin. Like she was being unmade. I gritted my teeth and pulled back. Arden grabbed my belt, anchoring me. "We're not losing another one." The ship groaned as the shadows inside deepened. A cold unlike anything I'd ever felt sank into my bones. Then, with a final wrench, Reyes collapsed into me. The force holding her snapped. And we heard the scream. Not from Reyes. From it. The things outside the ship twisted, their forms contorting, their shadows retreating. The pull on the kestrel loosened. The engines flared back to life. Arden didn't hesitate. She punched it. The ship launched skyward, engines tearing at full burn. The valley shrank beneath us, the monolith fading into the horizon. I barely had time to register what was happening before we were in the upper atmosphere, then the void of space. Reyes was sobbing. Arden gripped the controls, knuckles white. "Set a course for the nearest outpost," she ordered through clenched teeth. I moved on autopilot, punching in the coordinate. Reyes gasped. She was looking at her hand. It was wrong. Her fingertips were black. Not burned. Not bruised. Vanishing. Like they weren't fully there anymore. She met my eyes. "Carter," she whispered. "It's inside me." A warning klaxon erupted. "Incoming vessel." Arden swore. "What now?" I checked the sensors. "It's not a ship." The display flickered, distortion warping the readings. Then the whisper came back. No. Laughter. Outside the viewport, the void shifted. And the monolith was there. Floating. Waiting. We had escaped the planet. But we hadn't escaped them. The monolith hung in space, impossibly vast, framed against the cold abyss. It shouldn't have been there. We had escaped it. But there it was. Waiting. The whispers returned, no longer distant. They were inside us now, coiling through my skull like vines, squeezing my thoughts until all I could hear was them. "You woke us. You carry us. You will spread us?" Reyes screamed. She collapsed to the floor, clutching her arms. Her body was shifting. The blackness on her fingertips had spread, crawling up her veins like living ink. Her eyes rolled back, her breathing ragged. Arden moved to grab her, but I yanked her back. "Don't touch her!" Reyes convulsed, her fingers splitting apart into jagged tendrils of shadow and light. They twitched, flickered, shimmered between dimensions. Then they reformed. Her hand was whole again. But it wasn't hers. Reyes lifted her head slowly. Her pupils had vanished, replaced by swirling void. Her lips parted, but it wasn't her voice that came out. You cannot run. You cannot fight. You are already ours? Underscore. A cold knife of fear buried itself in my chest. I took a step back. Reyes? She blinked. And for a moment, just a moment, her eyes were normal again. Terrified. Human. Carter, she gasped. Kill me. Then she lunged. Her fingers morphed midair, lengthening into black claws. I barely dodged as they raked through the air where my throat had been. She moved too fast, too wrong, like a marionette controlled by something else. Arden drew her sidearm. Stop. Reyes twisted unnaturally, turning to Arden. You would kill her? Arden hesitated. That was all it took. Reyes ripped the gun from her hands, crushing the barrel like paper. Alarms blared. Structural anomalies detected. I spun to the console. The ship was changing. The walls pulsed. The metal twisted. The kestrel was becoming part of it. You were never meant to leave. The whisper came from everywhere, vibrating through my bones. Then a noise. A deep, wet tearing. And the hull split open. Arden and I were ripped off our feet as the ship ruptured. Metal peeled apart like flesh, cables snapped like tendons, the corridors stretched, melted, became something else. Through the yawning tear in the hull, I saw it. The monolith. It wasn't made of stone. It was made of them. Thousands of them. Moving. Shifting. Waiting. Join us? Then, the pull. Gravity snapped sideways, and I was sucked into the void. I reached for anything. Caught Arden's wrist. Reyes stood in the opening, her body flickering, half shadow, half human. You will understand soon. She reached for me. Arden kicked her away. And then, we were gone. Tumbling into the endless abyss. Darkness swallowed us. The ship was gone. The monolith loomed above, a jagged void against the infinite abyss. The cold gnawed at my bones, but I wasn't dead. Not yet. Arden's grip was like iron on my wrist, her breathing ragged through the comms. Our suits had switched to emergency oxygen, but it wouldn't last long. We have to, Arden started. And then we stopped falling. Something held us. Not gravity. Not inertia. Something else. I twisted my head, trying to see. The monolith had changed. It wasn't just a structure, it was alive. The swirling black mass extended tendrils toward us, shifting and coiling like liquid shadow. The whisper slithered into my mind again. You carry us. You woke us. Now you must finish what you started. A shape moved inside the monolith. No, not inside. Emerging. A figure stepped forward, impossibly tall, its form shifting between flesh and void. Its face was wrong, human but hollow. Like it was remembering what a human should look like. And then, it spoke. I was the first. A wave of pure, crushing knowledge slammed into me. Memories that weren't mine. A man standing beneath a black sun. A voice calling from the stars. A deal made in desperation. The first human. The last prisoner. I gasped, struggling against the unseen force holding me. You're human? The thing tilted its head. Its eyes, asterisk, or the voids where eyes should be, asterisk, bore into me. I was. The whispers grew louder. You open the gate? I felt something inside me shift. I looked down at my arm. The veins were black, spreading, just like Reyes. Arden noticed. Her breath caught. Carter. I gritted my teeth. Not now. I willed myself to move. And I could. Whatever force had held us loosened. The creature watched. Waiting. It wanted something from us. It wants to be free, I realized. A horrifying clarity snapped into place. The monolith wasn't just a prison. It was a doorway. And we were the key. I met Arden's gaze. We can't let it out? She nodded. No hesitation. But the creature smiled. You cannot fight what you already are. The black veins burned beneath my skin. Spreading. A choice. Give in or resist. Join them or fight. I thought of Reyes. What she had become. I thought of the Kestrel, the way it changed, and I fought. I reached for Arden's hand, and I pulled us free. The monolith screamed. The void rippled. The world shattered. And we were somewhere else. Stars above. Ground below. Air in our lungs. I collapsed, gasping. Arden landed beside me, coughing. A planet. Not Earth. Not the alien world we had landed on. Something else. I turned, heart pounding. The monolith was gone. The whispers were silent. Arden pushed herself up, looking at me, then at my arm. The black veins were fading. But not gone. A reminder. Arden exhaled. We survived? I wasn't sure if we had. Because somewhere out there, the first humans still waited. And we had only delayed the inevitable.